Hi everyone, my name is Maria Karma. I'm from the Cardano community. Today we are here in Lovelace Academy channel. I brought Glenn to explain to us what Empowa is. How are you doing, Glenn?
I'm great, thanks, Maria. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you here. And this is part of a series of episodes that we're going to record here in Lovelace Academy as we are delivering part of the proposal of the Catalyst Fund that we got in Fund 2. So I brought you here to bring to the community what is Empowa and tell us a little bit the project. You also got some funds from Catalyst and you progress from there. We're going to take it as we go along. So tell us what is Empowa and what you do here.
Sure, thanks, Maria. So Empowa is a mechanism by which we seek to create financial empowerment, but we do this through the mechanism of property. And so in order to do that, what we're seeking to do is provide affordable housing for people that they can own in communities where it's not currently accessible. So our whole objective is to find ways of getting money to where it's required, from getting value from where there is value, currently where there is capital, to where it's most needed on the ground in the most efficient way possible, and to get flows back so that there are returns for investors. So to just give you a sense of that, Maria, there's a backlog in Africa of 50 million homes. Now, many people assume that that's because of poverty, but it's not. It's actually because of the structural systems. The systems don't work. The systems don't work for the vast majority of the population. That's not just in Africa, we know that's across the world, but particularly in Africa, and the country where we started the first project, which is in Mozambique, there are 600 mortgages in a country of 30 million people. So 600 people have been able to borrow money from a bank in order to buy a home. Now, that's insane in anybody's books, because if you look at anywhere in the world, those numbers just wouldn't make sense. Those wouldn't make sense in any shape or form, because there's no ways there's only 30 people, no matter how poor a country is, there's no ways that there's only 60 people who could be able to afford a mortgage. So it just demonstrates how the systems just don't work.
I know the system doesn't work is true, because in Brazil, the majority of the houses are rented, because the system that is in place do not contemplate people with lower and lower classes. They only contemplate people from certain parameters. And it's why I like your project, because you're coming in blockchain, Web3, and you build this system where you're going to build houses in Mozambique in a specific area who suffers from climatic change all the time. So these houses that have been built with material that are not resistant, they now could build with a resistant material, and instead you're rebuilding the house over and over again. You build a house in the right way, they're going to stand longer. So instead of being wasting more time in the same house, you can move on and build others and others houses, so more people can benefit from your project. Is that right?
Absolutely correct. And the reason the word empower, is because we empower everybody on the ground. The whole joy and approach of decentralization is we know we can't sit in a central place and solve problems for people on the ground. What we have to do is empower people to solve their own challenges. And so that, whether that is at the building level or at the financial level, we have to innovate in that space in order to create solutions. But we can't do that centrally. We've just got to enable people on the ground to do that. And so that's the process that we're working by. So exactly as you say, right now, the vast majority of houses in Mozambique, where we're just starting, obviously it's just the starting point. The intention is to go across Africa and then across the world. But where we're starting is, as you say, you can't get a mortgage. Nobody can buy a house because you can't get a mortgage. You can't get a mortgage because you can't prove who you are and you can't prove your income. So income is informal and it's also chaotic. So if you're not on a salary and don't earn a salary, even entrepreneurs earn income in bunches. It doesn't come in nice, steady, flat lines. And yet the entire financial system is built on flat lines. So it doesn't take into account informal income, seasonal income, family income, job type of income, sort of daily job kind of income, which is the reality for the vast majority of the informal market.
It is real because, for example, I think the laws about employing people are going stronger in some ways. So they create different classes of workers, and these workers can't prove in the financial real world who they are, where they work, and they can actually pay back. Some people are there 10, 15, 20 years in this type of jobs. They cannot get the mortgage, but they still producing, they still having a salary. These people exist.
Exactly. They exist. They exist, they earn, they pay. And the irony of that is those rentals that you're talking about, like in Brazil, often those rentals are incredibly expensive because they're perceived as such high risk. And yet, as you say, people are there for 20 years, paying regularly every month, but because of the structures, it's deemed high risk and therefore expensive. Our research in South Africa showed literally there's a township 300 meters apart, 300 meters away from formal environment. And the rental in the township, in the favela, in the Brazilian context, would be between 4 and 7 times higher per square meter than in the formal economy because of that perceived risk. And so, but it's madness. So it costs you more money to be poor, because you can't prove your income. And so the entire financial system is designed, not pre-designed necessarily, but it just has worked. It doesn't work. It's as simple as that. So how can we turn that around? How can we make things forward-looking? How can we do as a lease to own? Just as you said, that person who's paid their rent for 20 years, they should own their house by now. Because the person who has rented it out to them has actually made the return and still owns the asset, so the whole thing is that's what we're trying to turn around and say, do a lease to own. So for the first time, we're offering a forward-looking, so you don't have to have historical context. You don't have to have, formalized proof of income. If the developer on the ground, again, does the local kind of research, knows the kind of work that they do, the kinds of incomes that they have, looks at the clothes they wear in, where they currently live in, but takes into account the package and determines, do they think people would be able to afford this? And those people are entitled to enter into a lease on which then they pay that lease, and then at the end of 10 years, they own their house. Now, so, often people say there's so much risk in doing that, but in reality, you and I know it costs money to move. So it's also, I'm not going to rent a house that I can't afford if it's going to cost me money to move back and forth. I'm not going to do that just for a couple of months. So there's a very serious intention to buy when people enter into these kinds of lease agreements. So if there are challenges, often it comes about only through emergency, because there's so much pent-up demand for a decent house at a decent, affordable rate that people will do anything to pay for that. They will do whatever they can in order to pay for that.
There is something weird happening in the market, and there is a house crisis in Ireland where the prices of renting and the prices for buying houses going up and up and up is higher, like doubling in Manhattan, something like that. So if you're trying to get a house for, 10,000 euro, let's say, as an example. So people will still bidding and bidding more and more and more and more until you get the house for 20, like a double. Yeah. Because the people really, really need where to live, to have peace of mind and place to work. Most people now is working from home. And the price is going up and up and up. It's crazy. And the government's not doing any move to change the laws because a lot of them own the houses. It's not that crazy.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. And so, that's exactly it. And you can imagine in a country like Mozambique, it's climate impacted, as you mentioned in the start, it's now one of the most climate impacted countries in the world because of where it's situated on the east coast of Africa. So it gets regularly hit by cyclones. So if you have to build your own house and it gets hit by a cyclone, not only do you lose your house, you lose everything in it, because you've self-built it, as you know, often with corrugated iron. So it's a shack. So it's a shack on land that you've self-built, and it gets destroyed, as do all your possessions. So from an economic perspective, constantly pushing people backwards all the time. So just a house, even, one of the questions we get often is, is it insured? And right now, insurance, as you can imagine, is a challenging concept because of the lack of sophistication in the markets, particularly for housing. But the issue around that is if you just have a secure house, your material possessions are so much more secure, just from the elements, let alone security. As you can imagine, security in a tin shack is never as secure as a house. So all of these aspects, just the impact of a house, what it has on people, on everything, on education, on upgrading of living conditions, just everything, the impact is massive. Not to mention the financial impact. Obviously, what we talked about at the beginning, the whole intention is to create wealth for people, because at least they own their own home and don't have to continue paying rent for generations.
How does work your token? How is it involved in the project and about what you do in this empowerment?
So we've got two tokens. We have NFTs, so obviously non-fungible, and we use those to raise funds to provide lease-to-own loans to the end consumer through the developer. So the local developer on the ground is able to provide a lease-to-own option for the tenant or buyer, tenant/buyer, which is a completely new innovation in Mozambique. And just that in our first project that we're doing with the first NFT sale, just as a matter of interest, we're doing 30 homes through this mechanism. It means we've grown the home loan market in Mozambique by 5%. Now, that's just insane. I mean, it's so ridiculous. The numbers are so ridiculously small, but it just shows you the kinds of impact that we're having already. And that part is what really excites me. But if you take that and so the non-fungible token raises the funding, and the fungible token enables us to provide flows of value down to the end user and back in a way that provides return to that NFT. So we're launching NFTs that have rewards. So it's no longer merely an art piece or something of interest. It has an intrinsic value in and of itself, but it also generates rewards. So we use the EMP token as that mechanism to provide a transfer of value back and forth between the providers of the capital, the NFT buyers, and the tenants on the ground. So that's what we use the EMP token for. And it's a really interesting use case, because for the first time, what we're doing is utilizing an ecosystem currency in place of the country currencies to create value. So it's a very interesting use case for this. And I think it's something that's quite exciting. It's early days, but our whole objective is to demonstrate that, because it's one of the reasons why there's been no investment into housing, is because it's long-term, and long-term investments into projects in developing countries, by definition, from a currency perspective, are highly risky, because emerging markets currency decline constantly.
Every single NFT is to become a house. Is what you're telling me?
Exactly. So the NFTs, we sell the NFTs, that's utilized to build housing, and that housing, and then those EMPs are locked into that NFT and released as the rentals are paid. So exactly as you say, it's not sell the tokens and then get the use. It's actually as we build the projects, we roll out the tokens. Both, so then the value of the value is effectively locked into that lease and is repaid back to that NFT over time. So we're creating a significant TVL as we build it, because every time there's a housing project, we build more and more value into the ecosystem. So there's more usage, there's more transference, there's more usage of the token on an ongoing basis, and we're creating more and more value.
But there is one thing that I would like to ask, because we are here with Empowa the first time. You went to Catalyst. Tell me, how was the experience and how did the funds work? Did it go?
Catalyst for us was fantastic, and it literally was the catalyst. It really helped us in a number of ways. So being the first kind of one of the first RealFi projects on Cardano, and in fact, I mean, RealFi is an emerging term now. I think I can give credit to John O'Connor for actually the term, but I'm not sure. But literally, I mean, that's how new it is. Being one of the first kind of RealFi projects, people didn't quite get it. It didn't quite fit into the comfortable crypto space. It's not a DEX. It's not something that everybody knows and understands in the crypto space, because it comes from a previous iteration, an Ethereum ecosystem or something, and we just replicated it in Cardano. So the whole thing around that was, how do we get the message across to the crypto community about RealFi? That we can demonstrate that through partnerships, Empowa is able to deliver on the ground. We could actually put some houses on the ground. And on the other side of the equation, when we went to the housing developers and said, we're trying to use crypto to fund this, they were completely mistrusting. And they were like, no, crypto is for, people who are interested in moon boys, it's for drug dealers and money launderers. We're not interested in gray money coming into our projects. And so we were trying to explain to both sides. We had to build trust on both sides. And that effectively was our Catalyst project. So we went to the community and said, we want to prove to both sides of the community that we can do this, that crypto can work to fund houses, and that houses can be delivered through crypto. And that was the basis that we went in. And we secured that. Our objective was to build 2 houses. We ended up building 4. Through the funding, because we managed through the Catalyst funding to raise further funding to cover our overheads, so we could put all of that money directly into the houses. We were able to move the needle in terms of environmental aspect. So we built 2 houses that were incremental improvements from an environmental perspective, according to the EDGE standard. And the EDGE building standard is an IFC-based measurement of environmental change and impact. So we could put some measurements of that in place, which was very exciting. And we built 2 CO2 negative houses, which were based on completely new materials and completely new looks. And our whole objective was to prove that to everybody, not just that, but we actually extended the objectives of the project during this to be able to achieve all of those objectives, and we delivered. And so for us, it was the exciting part, it was the foundational part of the system to be able to start building trust for everybody to see that we were not a fly-by-night project, that we actually knew what we were talking about. We had experience, often you see a white man, you go like, why, what does this man know about Africa? These kinds of questions come up, and you've got to convince people that, I've lived in Africa all my life. I've done all of this kind of stuff. I know and understand the markets. We've got relationships with people, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that gets proved just by delivery. And so Catalyst was really, literally, it was a fundamental catalyst for us to be able to prove what we were doing, demonstrate the value, and be able to then go and say to the community broader, let's extend this project. We can do so much more. There's so much more opportunity if we can support this to develop this further.
It was incredible, wasn't it? It's just, the community is amazing. Come along and say, okay, you can have this fund, and then you go over there, you build this, supposed to build 2 houses, and then you build 4 and come back and show to the community. I think like you're doing your mission of the word Empowa, that is empowering people all the way.
Absolutely. And that's, if we do demonstrate that, and if we can demonstrate that by doing it as you're doing now, in the proof is in the delivery, that becomes so much more credible in terms of success, because we had the white paper, we drafted the white paper, we had the academic theory. So here's the theory, this is what we believe we can do. But to take it from white paper, from theory into some form of practical is always so challenging, to get somebody to buy into that, to be able to fund that. And again, the Catalyst, was so grateful to Catalyst and to the community for that, because that tips it over the edge from just this concept into something real from which you can build. And so much of that is needed, because again, it comes back, I saw a wonderful article the other day talking about empowerment, about startups, the ability to take it from the stage that we're talking about so often depends on privilege, because only people who can afford not to survive, who don't need money to survive, can afford to put in the time, energy, and effort to tip it over that. And Catalyst enabled us to do that, to be able to get over that hump, because people still needed to live and survive. We weren't in a privileged position where we could all, sit back and work on these concepts while focus on them while doing, because we had alternative sources of income. I think that's the key part. We didn't. So we had to take this and really make it work.
I know. So tell us a little bit about this partnership with World Mobile, because World Mobile have been doing work around the community, has a strong community. I have been talking to the CEO here in the channel as well. And I think you both come together as something really, really powerful and interesting.
We're incredibly excited by our partnership with World Mobile, because exactly as you say, I mean, I love World Mobile. I love the project. I love the concept of what they're doing. As we all know, the internet is fundamentally transformational. In Mozambique, it's just saying, it's one of the poorest countries in the world, yet data, as always, this is how things work, because it's one of the most expensive places for data. So internet access, if you're poor, internet access is expensive. So again, these things, everything is stacked up against, against poor people, against poor countries. So together with World Mobile is coming into Mozambique. So they're now expanding into Mozambique, which is very exciting for us, for Cardano, and obviously for World Mobile. But as part of the first project, they're going to be putting in affordable internet into the 30 homes that we're funding through this NFT sale. So together, not only we are providing affordable funding, providing affordable homes, but we're also linking them up to affordable internet. Now, I wish I could bottle the excitement for when I told Casa Real, our developer on the ground in Beira, about this opportunity and this partnership. I wish I could have bottled his response, because it was just, he was so excited, because as you can imagine, the internet is challenging. Access to the internet always, whenever we have communications with them, we try and get them to talk about experiences. There's always challenges with the internet. It's always, we've got to get it right. We're lucky if we get through an entire interview and we can get the conversations going and recorded and everything to get feedback, so that people outside of our project can see this kind of feedback.
I know.
So again, just one of the challenges, he was so excited, and the excitement of the families moving in to be able to get this as a benefit. One of the challenges we have is trust. For people who have been exploited through whatever systems, the level of trust is incredibly low. So we've had to be very careful. And Casa Real, as I say, for example, could not start to market the lease to own offering until they knew that we were serious and that funding would be delivered. Because if they start to do that and the funding isn't available, their reputation is ruined and their business model is destroyed. So the
reputation as well.
Sorry?
So is your reputation as well?
Exactly. So reputation, trust, all of that goes for a ball. So the whole thing around it is all the time we've got to be building trust with these communities. So to be able to offer affordable finance, at first it was like, we don't believe it. Then it was like, okay, if it's believable, then I'm certainly not going to market it before I know it's there. And then it's, okay, great, it's there, but I'm not even now going to market it, because if I market it too loudly, we're going to be overwhelmed. And just through, and to give you that story, I love this story. The daughter of the owner, Casa Real, was talking about what her father was doing. The teacher heard, okay, and came and bought a house and bought a friend. So the 7-year-old daughter sold 2 houses on this basis. Now,
Wow.
that's what I'm saying. I wish I could bottle this, because these are the stories that tell you so much. It tells you how much pent-up demand there is. It tells you the empowerment of women that's happening, because women can get access to this now, because they don't need the traditional structures of men, the whole patriarchal kind of mechanisms by which the traditional finance systems work, particularly in Mozambique. So it's all of these things just come together into this amazing opportunity. And as I say, to the community, we're incredibly grateful for building the tech to enable us to start doing this, and for enabling us to get the funding to really start this process and to revolutionize this whole entire market. And if we can get this right, people think it's charity. It's not. It's not charity. It's just around enabling cost-effective finance. In the developed world, people are paying between 4 and 5% for a mortgage. In the developing world, you pay between 25 and 30% for a mortgage. All we're trying to do is bring those two numbers much closer together. That's what we're trying to do. We see that as an opportunity, not as charity.
I see. Look, you're doing a wonderful work out there. I have seen you in few spaces and very busy participating on everything and answering everyone. And thank you very much for everything you do here in the community. Would you like to address anyone in the community in this opportunity, someone that have really helping you out to get what you need to succeed?
I think obviously the big shout out goes to World Mobile, obviously, for right now. We are in discussions with other partners. We're part of that. And I think that's part of what we are seeking to achieve. Our whole realization is this is about empowerment and decentralization. So our whole objective is to find ways of taking this and expanding this and getting more people involved. And so if you have a look on our website, we have created roles within the community in order to decentralize that. And it's early days. I really need to emphasize that. We're still at the very, very beginning of our journey. These things I'm talking about are lofty ambitions, but there are lots of steps that we have to take to get there, and it's going to take us some time. So we acknowledge that, but we're asking the community, like a World Mobile has done, is to trust us and say, yeah, come on board. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do together. And I think so to the whole community, I'd say, please have a look at our website, see roles, because there's creator roles in terms of creative people, there's communities, there's obviously there's constructors. So there's all kinds of roles that we're seeking to develop in order to, at the end of the day, all of this needs to be decentralized. So yeah, we're open to discussions, we're open to partnerships, we're open to everything that can make this work. So yeah, that's really our gratitude to the community, and our offer to the community is we'd love to be involved if anybody would like to work together to find ways to make this happen.
That's unbelievable. So Glenn, thank you very much for once again you take the time and come and talk to the community. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Thank you, and thanks for your time, and really appreciate talking to you. I always enjoy it.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.